I'm going to put you 6 feet under. And you were law enforcement. And then I went back and said, I'm going to fucking get you. I'm going to fucking get you. Would you take that as a threat? Let me tell you something. If that isn't a threat of violence, I don't know what is. And if you had that threat of violence to law enforcement, what would that mean? Welcome, guys. My name's Stuart Brisgell. That's David Solomon. I don't know if I was clear or not. My microphone had some issues. We're bringing you an unfiltered, uncensored conversation on a wide range of topics. Today, society at large, common sense. This podcast dedicated to giving you a platform on opinions and thoughts and experiences. And what happened at the Toronto Eaton Center, I just watched a short video. I am just appalled and disgusted. So sit back and relax because David's going to jump in because he was planning to run solo this morning. And I wanted to surprise him. I even put on a shirt for him. David, that is absolutely the most repulsive video I have seen in the longest time. I've seen riots that are supposedly, insurrections. I've seen riots that are, George Floyd take a knee. I've seen riots. I remember the Rodney King riot in the 90s. But in no such time would anyone go up to a law enforcement officer. I'm going to put you 6 feet under, not get their face bashed in at the very least, or in a set of silver handcuffs. But we need to investigate. David, I am utterly, utterly appalled. I don't know what to say. David?
So let me just the purpose of today's rant, folks, is to tell you that the society that we know of today, it's in decline. In fact, it's almost dead. And I've never really said that, but the way we're acting today, our society is on basic life support system, if this is what we will accept. Now, last week I spoke to you about in a coffee shop in California, how 3 employees refused to permit a Jewish woman to use the bathroom. Now remember, Starbucks shut down 5,000 locations because 2 Black people who didn't buy anything weren't allowed to use the bathroom. They shut down for sensitivity training. Now, yes, these 3 employees were fired, but social media, you stayed quiet as usual. You have a restaurant in Vancouver called Tamam, a Palestinian restaurant that since October 7th has been posting anti-Israel rhetoric. Had that been about Blacks, had that been about gays, social media would have had an upheaval. They would have demanded the closing of the restaurant. But again, it's about Israel. It's about Jews. Who cares? And finally, what has gone on is that these pro-Hamas, horrifically disruptive individuals who throw these excessive temper tantrums because they want what's not real. We talked about in the last rants that they're not getting what they want right now because there are other conditions that have to be met. They're disrupting traffic. They're causing havoc. They've destroyed property. And now they're ruining your Christmas shopping. Not mine, because I'm not going Christmas shopping. But they've gone into malls. They've disrupted tree lighting. And they're going into malls and disrupting your shopping. Because you aren't doing what they want. So what Stuart was referring to was how far this went. Now you think about it. When you have a protest, you have to apply for a permit. There's got to be security. What they're doing is all these ad hoc disruptions. They're disturbing the peace, which in itself should be a crime. Are you seeing anything happening? Any arrests? Brown University, yes. Other places, no. But at the Eaton Center in Toronto, it went even further. Protesters, anti-Israel, pro-Hamas, whatever you want to call them, went in to cause havoc at the largest mall in Toronto. Second largest mall in Toronto. It's a busy mall. And the protesters were like abundant. And there were police, and one went up to the police and said, quote, "I'll kill you. I'll put you 6 feet deep." Now, if a police officer is threatened like that, what should happen? Handcuffs, arrests. You just threatened to kill a police officer. And nothing happened in Toronto. They stood by and watched. And if you go and you YouTube this video it's about 2.5 minutes long, it's shocking to what extent they've crossed every line. And my rant today, which was going to be solo, and Stuart's here to hear it. Where is Mayor Olivia Chow, the socialist NDP loving mayor? Where are you? You're hiding. You know why you're hiding? Because you think this is your base or political base. These are the people that voted for you in the Toronto election. They're not. They hate your guts. They hate your guts. They're using you for their cause. They hate your guts, but you've done nothing. You paralyzed the police for doing their job properly. Because had this been anti-Asian Olivia Chow, what would you be saying right now? Doug Ford, the conservative premier, where the frick are you? Quiet. And worst of all, the SOB king of Canada, Justin Trudeau, hiding again. Now, he had no problem arresting Tamara Lick and members of the convoy, during COVID. He had no problem slandering them. He had no problem because he called them, they were havocs to society. They were havoc to society. They were disruptors to society. And he had them arrested. And there was a trial and the whole thing. And spent more time and effort discrediting them. But not a word about what just happened into Toronto. It's not just going to happen here, Stuart.
Oh.
It's going to happen in the United States. It's going to happen all over the place.
It's happening. It's happening in every country in the world. David, they call this an uprising. There's an old adage, slow 1,000 cuts. Better than a big knife. Because you may lose with a big knife. But slowly, methodically, all of these things are going to continue. And you want to know something, David? They're not going to stop at the end of the incursion and war in Israel. This is never going to stop until the leaders put an end to it. And they're not leaders if they don't. Because you want to know something, David? Leaders don't follow. But that's the problem with society today. That officer that took that verbal abuse and was threatened with bodily harm should have actually have acted and said, "Sir, thank you. You need to come with me," and let him lift a hand. But that officer decided that maybe
that officer was not decided anything. That officer, in all likelihood, was told by his bosses, and his bosses don't do anything. Okay, I've talked to the police, and they get their marching orders from the chief, who gets their marching orders from the mayor's office. I don't believe for a minute that the police in Toronto want to be threatened. And I don't think any police officer wants to be threatened. But again, if your leaders, and you call them leaders, and I call them sheep, I call them like beggars, they're whores, okay? But when from Olivia Chow to Doug Ford to Justin Trudeau, when you sit there silent and you do nothing, what are you waiting for?
Well, if you do nothing, you're agreeing with it. You're either part of the problem or part of the solution.
You are part of the problem. And you want to know what, Stuart? You want to know what? It's not only Jewish Canadians that should be afraid.
No.
It's all Canadians. And by the way, they disrupted in Yorkdale Mall, which was the largest mall in Toronto. They disrupted in Ottawa. They're disrupting everywhere. They're disrupting in the place. There are bomb threats in various Jewish institutions all over the US and Canada. We've had our synagogue firebombed. We've had our institutions shut up. And yet, the incredible deafening silence. Now, listen, the Montreal police, by the way, I want to tell you, has been fantastic, supportive of our community. I won't say anything against them. The chief of police has been fantastic and taken certain measures. But I got to tell you, when our so-called leadership, political leadership, sits there and does nothing, but would wait for a time that is politically advantageous. Oh my God, maybe it's something to do with the gay community. Oh my God, maybe it's something to do with gender. Or in Trudeau's case, oh my God, if I can discredit the convoy more. I mean, what they did to Tamara Lick, who is the head of this convoy organization, she's been arrested, she's been jailed, she's been discredited, there are criminal charges. And this SOB who stands there and threatens police, and they are saying, we're investigating? Folks, our society is in massive trouble. We're done.
David, you can't come back from non-response. Non-response is a response. So some parenting, people say, "Oh, just don't say anything." I don't think that style is going to work here, guys. And you know what, David? The insanity here in the United States and around the world, I got to tell you, that was probably the most intense video I've actually seen in a long time. And I want to thank the person that filmed that video. And I want to thank them for putting it on. I don't care what side of the line it is. It shows what exactly animals do. This is an animal. This is an animal. No, it was a group of animals.
But look at the headlines, Stuart. Look at the headlines, because these animals are getting favoritism from the media. Because the Toronto Star, instead of saying, people threaten in the headline, threatened police officer, it's a pro-Palestinian protest hits busy Eaton Center. What? There was a bloody threat. Okay, and if you were a liberal publication, you're giving it a semi-pass.
Well, the problem that King Trudeau needs to contend with is you need to get rid of the masks. You don't have the same civil rights in Canada you have in the States. Clearly, we know this. But you want to know something? They describe the guy shouting in the mask. They don't know who this guy is. They didn't go and get his information. They didn't take his name. What are they investigating, David? I think that is the most disingenuous comment I've heard in a long time.
You know what? It's 150 protesters who were there approximately, and it just is mind-boggling as I'm pulling up some reports. If you want to go ahead and this is not the Middle East. This is supposed to be a democracy. This is supposed to be a calm society with laws. And instead, what you see here, and I want to thank the gentleman named Ron Bangery who actually filmed this video. It's unbelievable it's like unbelievable to see that this repugnant method used, and the silence and nothing. Okay. And by the way, the only thing Olivia Chow actually talked about was transit workers that day. She didn't even bother to talk about anything. None of the leaders really cared. And this anti-Semitism is just going to spill over into other things. So, folks, I'm going to tell you, and this is nothing. Law enforcement is going to, if law enforcement are defamed, we're all in trouble, because they're not going to stop. Because if you think the protesting in a mall is enough, what's the next step?
Oh, they're already going to people's houses, members of Congress, Senate. David, there's no end. But you know what, David? Unfortunately, all good things must come to an end. David, time to wrap it up.
Well, Stuart, on that note, folks, if you're not going to do anything, if you're going to stay silent and complicit, you're next. They're coming after you.
That's all, Dice, for today. Thanks for joining and tuning and listening. I'd like to thank my partner, David, for covering the house while I'm in and out and being crazy busy with insanity. of my own. But I hope you enjoyed this conversation, got some valuable insight, and really understood the understanding on why we do this, and to think for yourself. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, noon Eastern, we dive into the mud, unfiltered, unedited, and sometimes just down outright funny. In the meantime, don't forget to follow us on social media, share your thoughts. Remember, we're always interested in hearing from you, whether you agree with us or not. So if you're some psycho Palestinian that thinks you have the right to exist more than the next guy, well, I want to hear from you. Because you want to know something? There is a solution to all of this. You have to blame Hamas. David, time to wrap it up.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, have yourself a good day.